there's a lot of Republican advantages. And smart Democrats I talk to are concerned that there's a gap. Not only do Republicans have what appears to be, as we've talked about here before, a very strong frontrunner in J.D. Vance, but they've got some institutional advantages. And there's something special about this Trump second term as compared to most second terms. Most second term presidents, term limited, lame ducks, they don't think much about politics. They don't think much about fundraising. They don't think much about building a political machine. That's just not true of the Trump-Vance operation. They're very focused on the midterms, and they're very focused on using the leverage of the Oval Office to do the kinds of things that are institutional, that can help one side or the other, one of the two parties, win a close presidential election. After every presidential cycle, I will typically do a survey to say, who's got technological superiority in the digital age, registering voters, turning out voters. That is a mechanical thing that involves a lot of understanding of social media, digital technology, communications. And I usually, after the end of the cycle, I can tell you, here's the side that has the advantage, and here's how big the advantage is. We don't know. We don't know that this time. Why don't we know that? Well, the Democrats aren't talking much because of their, I believe, belief that they're not that strong. And second, they're not talking much because there's no one to talk. You went from a Biden campaign that was behind the eight ball because of the weakness of their candidate to a 100-day sprint from the Harris campaign. Why don't we know how strong the Republicans are? Because the people who helped build what they built, James Blair, who was the political director, now works in the White House, people like Charlie Kirk, outside groups that worked under the law with the Trump Vance operation to build the kind of data-driven operation needed in this age, they're not bragging. Typically, you see the winners get credit for winning through superior technology. This started basically in 2008 with the Obama campaign and their much vaunted digital operation for registering voters, turning out voters, communicating with voters. This group of Republicans isn't talking. They're barely taking credit for what they did, and they're not doing these long interviews where they explain the advantages that they had because they figured out the technology. I think the Republicans have an advantage here based on everything I know, but there's not a lot of meat on that bone to explain it. The challenge for the Democrats is the Trump-Vance political operation is up and running. They're fundraising. They're building on their technological experiences. They're registering voters. You see that in some of the states where data is available. The advantage of spending 4 years focused on the general election through the RNC, through the White House political operation, through these outside groups is massive. Because what's happening on the Democratic side? There's about 30 people mentioned as candidates. None of them are very active. Some of them will do podcasts and TV, but no one's out there fundraising into a super PAC or building a massive operation. This is the stuff that in a close election makes a difference. And in our system, as you know, in recent history, we've had a lot of close elections. We haven't had landslides. We've had folks win narrowly in the popular vote, narrowly in the Electoral College. So what's happening now, 3 years before the next presidential, could be decisive. One side, stronger in the last election, building, taking advantage of what they had and continuing to quietly build on it. That's the Republican side. What's happening on the Democratic side is a bunch of 24 or so potential candidates who are thinking about it. And they're thinking about building things up, but they're thinking about building things up for themselves in terms of technology and donors and hiring the best technological wizards against other Democrats, because winning that nomination in 2024 and 2028 is going to be tough. It's going to be competitive. There is no front runner, and I doubt there will be for a long time because we don't have an incumbent. Even if Kamala Harris runs, no one sees her as clearing the field or becoming this titanic front runner if she does run.